Hey everyone, Mackenzie here. Picture this. You show up to a lavish party you paid for, $18,000 to be exact. Dressed to the nines, gift in hand, only to have your own father point at you and tell security, get the stranger out of here. Yeah, that happened to me. I'm 34, a financial advisor who's been in my family's personal ATM for over a decade. But that night, it was the final straw that pushed me to break free from years of financial abuse. If you've ever felt like your family sees you as a wallet instead of a person, stick around. This story's for you. Drop a comment below if you relate, and let's dive into how I went from funding my family's dreams to reclaiming my own. Imagine walking into a stunning Seattle venue, the kind where celebrities host their private parties. I'm talking chandeliers, white roses, and a view of Elliott Bay that screams luxury. I'm wearing a black Valentino dress that cost more than my first car, holding a $5,000 gift for my parents' 40th anniversary. I'm excited, nervous, hoping this time they'll see me as more than just the checkbook. But when I get to the door, the hostess looks at me like I'm a gatecrasher. "Your name's not on the list," she says. "I'm their daughter. I paid for this party." And then my dad walks out, looks me dead in the eye and says, "Get this stranger out of here." That moment shattered something in me, but it also lit a fire. By the end of this series, you'll see how I turned that pain into power. Hit that subscribe button to follow along. Let's rewind. I grew up in Seattle as the middle kid, sandwiched between my golden child sister, Heather, and my spoiled younger brother, Eric. My parents, Richard and Elizabeth, didn't exactly hide their favoritism. Heather was the star, blonde, bubbly, a cheerleader who could do no wrong. Every A she brought home got a party, every B got a new designer bag. Eric, he was the baby, the only boy, and apparently incapable of failure, despite flunking classes and getting into fights. Then there was me, Mackenzie, the responsible one, the one who got straight A's and won math competitions, but was told, "That's just expected of you." I remember showing my mom my state math trophy, and she asked if I could tutor Eric instead of throwing me a dinner like she did for Heather's cheerwints. It was like I was invisible unless I was useful. Here's a story that still stings. When I was 16, I wanted to go to this summer finance camp. Nerdy, I know, but it was my dream. It cost $2,000, and I begged my parents to help. They said no, they just spent $3,000 on Heather's cheer camp in California. So I got a job bussing tables at a local diner, working 20 hours a week after school. I saved every penny, skipped prom to avoid the cost, and finally made it to that camp. It was life-changing. My first taste of financial strategy, the spark for my career. But when I got home, glowing with pride, my dad asked why I didn't use my earnings to help with Eric's new skateboard. That was my normal. My achievements were footnotes, their needs were headlines. Fast forward to my 20s. I busted my butt through college, working 2 jobs while Heather got a free ride to a private university, and Eric, well, he partied. I graduated with honours in finance, but no one showed up to my ceremony. Eric had a crisis moving into his new place. By 30, I'd built a thriving financial advisory practice in Seattle's tech boom. That's when the calls started rolling in. "Mackenzie, your dad's hours got cut. Can you help with the mortgage?" "Mackenzie, Eric's got this killer food truck idea. He just needs $10,000 to start." "Mackenzie, Heather's wedding needs a Vegas bachelorette party. Don't ruin her day." I said yes every time, thinking it would earn me a seat at the family table. Spoiler, it didn't. Let's circle back to that $18,000 party. 6 months ago, my mom called. All sweet and warm, red flag, right? She said they wanted a big 40th anniversary bash at L'Amazon, Seattle's ritziest spot. I was thrilled to be included, so I paid the deposit without blinking. But as the planning went on, they got cagey. "Don't worry about the guest list," they said. "Just focus on work." I should have known. I showed up with that $5,000 gift, matching Patek Philippe watches I knew my dad admired. I'd spent weeks picking out my dress, getting my hair done, hoping to feel like part of the family. Instead, I got escorted out like a criminal. My own parents didn't just exclude me. They humiliated me in front of 60 guests. That night, driving home, I realized no amount of money would ever buy their love. That moment in the car, tears streaming, was my breaking point, but also my turning point. In the next part, I'll share how I started unraveling a decade of financial abuse, from tallying up the $327,000 I'd given them to making the tough calls to cut them off. If you've ever felt trapped by family expectations, you won't want to miss it. Drop a comment with your story. Have you ever had to say no to family? Hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for part 2. Let's keep this journey going together. What's good, everyone? Mackenzie here, back with part 2 of my journey to break free from being my family's personal ATM. If you missed part 1, go check it out. I spilled the tea on how my own parents had me escorted out of their 40th anniversary party that I paid for. $18,000 down the drain, and they called me a stranger. That night broke my heart, but it also woke me up. Today, I'm diving into what happened next. The moment I added up a decade of giving, faced the shocking truth, and started taking back my power. If you've ever felt like your family's using you, stick around. This one's for you. Drop a comment if you've been there, and let's get into it. After that humiliating night at l'Amazon, I drove home in a daze. Picture me in my fancy Valentino dress, mascara running, clutching a $5,000 gift box for my parents that they didn't even look at. I pulled into my parking garage and just sat there, the word beggar echoing in my head. My dad's word for me, his own daughter. My phone buzzed, and it was my best friend, Jordan. "How's the fancy party?" she asked, all bubbly. I could barely choke out the words. "They kicked me out." Jordan was at my place in 20 minutes, no questions asked. Over Thai takeout and wine, I poured out the whole story. The guest list snub, the security escort, my dad's cold dismissal. Jordan didn't sugarcoat it. "Mac, this isn't just dysfunctional. This is abuse." That word hit hard, but it felt true. I wasn't just the family ATM, I was their doormat. Jordan pushed me to do something I'd avoided for years. Add it all up. I'm a financial advisor, so I've got records of every penny I've ever spent, including a category in my software labeled Family Support. I opened my laptop, heart pounding, and ran the report. The number made us both gasp. $327,845.38 over 10 years. That's not pocket change. That's a house, a college fund, a dream retirement. The list was endless. My parents' mortgage payments, Eric's failed food truck, his flop of an app, his coffee shop that lasted 3 months. Then there was Heather's Vegas bachelorette bash, her wedding, even her home renovation. And don't forget the $18,000 party deposit. Seeing it all laid out was like a punch to the gut. I'd been bleeding money to people who didn't even want me at their table. Let me paint you a picture of one of these expenses. My brother Eric, the eternal dreamer, came to me 3 years ago with his big idea, a food truck called Taco Tornado. He swore it was a sure thing. Seattle loves tacos, right? He needed $15,000 for the truck and supplies. I wrote the check, thinking I was helping him build a future. 3 months later, he abandoned it because the hours were too much. The truck sat in a lot, racking up storage fees I ended up covering. Then came his app idea, $10,000 for a developer that never delivered. Last year it was a coffee shop, $20,000 gone when he got bored. Each time he'd call me crying, saying he'd pay me back. Spoiler, he never did. And my parents, they'd call me selfish if I hesitated. That's the cycle I was stuck in. While I was staring at that $327,000 number, I made the mistake of opening Instagram. Big mistake. Heather had already posted from the anniversary party, all smiles with my parents, cutting an $800 cake I paid for. Her caption: "Celebrating 40 years of perfect love with our tight-knit family." Blessed? Tight-knit? I wasn't even invited. Then I saw Eric's post, a photo of him handing my parents plane tickets for an Alaska cruise I booked as their anniversary gift. His caption? "Surprise Mom and Dad with a dream trip." My blood boiled. They were taking credit for my money, my gifts, while I was escorted out like trash. That's when something snapped. I wasn't just done. I was ready to fight back. That night, with Jordan by my side, I made a decision. No more. No more loans, no more gifts, no more bailing them out. But it wasn't just about money. It was about reclaiming my self-worth. I'd spent years thinking if I gave enough, they'd love me. But love doesn't work like that, and neither should family. I went to bed feeling lighter, like I'd dropped a weight I didn't even know I was carrying. The next morning, I woke up with a plan. I wasn't just going to stop the money train, I was going to derail it completely. And let me tell you, the fallout was going to be epic. In the next part, I'll take you through the day I started cancelling everything. Cruise tickets, Disney trips, even Eric's latest business account. Spoiler alert, my family did not take it well. If you've ever had to set a hard boundary with people who feel entitled to your money or time, you'll want to hear this. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had to cut off a family member financially? How did it feel? Hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for part 3. Let's keep breaking free together. Hey, what's up everyone? Mackenzie here, back with part 3 of my journey to stop being my family's personal ATM. If you caught parts 1 and 2, you know I hit rock bottom when my parents had me escorted out of their $18,000 anniversary party. Yep, the one I paid for. Then I discovered I'd shelled out over $327,000 to my family over a decade, only for them to take credit for my gifts on social media. That was my breaking point. Today, I'm diving into the day I took action, cancelling every financial tie I had with them. Spoiler, it felt like defusing a bomb, and the explosion was coming. If you've ever had to set a hard boundary with family, this one's for you. Drop a comment if you've been there, and let's jump in. The morning after that brutal night, I woke up different. The hurt was still there, but it was mixed with this fire in my chest, a quiet, steely determination. I wasn't just going to stop funding my family, I was going to shut it down with the precision I use in my financial advisory job. I grabbed my coffee, opened my laptop, and called my assistant Chloe, who's been my rock for 5 years. I need you at my place by 10, I texted. It's personal. She showed up, laptop bag in hand, ready to roll. I laid it all out. The party, the humiliation, the $327,000. Her jaw dropped. Mac, this is next level toxic, she said. What's the plan? The plan, cancel everything, every trip, every loan, every commitment. It was time to stop the bleeding. Let me give you a taste of what I was up against. A month before the anniversary party, I'd booked a $9,000 Disney World trip for my sister Heather's family. Her husband, and their 2 kids, Jack and Emma. I thought it'd be a sweet surprise for my niece and nephew, who I actually adore. But Heather never even thanked me. She just assumed it was her due. When I told Chloe I was cancelling it, she winced. The kids are going to be crushed, she said. I felt a pang. Those kids didn't deserve this. But I couldn't keep funding Heather's entitlement. So I called Disney's customer service. I need to cancel the Morgan family package. May 15th to 20th, I said. The rep warned me about a 20% cancellation fee. Do it, I told her. That $1,800 sting hurt, but not as much as staying trapped in their cycle. Chloe and I got to work like we were prepping for a corporate merger. First up, the $12,000 Alaska cruise I'd booked as my parents' anniversary gift. I called the cruise line, gave them the booking number, and said, cancel it. Refund what you can to my card. The rep hesitated. Should we notify the travelers? No, I said. I'll handle that. Next, Eric's latest business loan. $15,000 sitting in an account I'd set up. Since it was in my name, I called my bank and froze it. He hasn't touched it yet, the manager confirmed. Done, I said. Then, my parents' $8,000 country club membership renewal. One quick call to the club. I'm not renewing the Morgan membership this year. The director sounded shocked. They'll be disappointed, I shrugged. They'll survive. By noon, I'd cancelled $62,000 in commitments. It felt like ripping off a Band-Aid. Painful, but freeing. I knew the storm was coming, so I prepped like a hurricane was about to hit. I drafted an auto-reply for my family's numbers. Financial services permanently discontinued. All inquiries will be redirected to this message. Savage, right? I set it to activate at 5 p.m., giving the cancellations time to process. Then, I temporarily blocked their numbers. Not to ghost them forever, but to give myself space to breathe. That evening, I invited Jordan over for takeout and moral support. By 6 p.m., my phone was blowing up. Missed calls from Mom, Dad, Heather. Eric texted, "What the hell, Mac? The business account's frozen." Heather, "You cancelled Disney. Fix this now." My dad left a voicemail. "Call me immediately. This is an emergency." Jordan watched my phone vibrate across the table. "Wow, that was fast," she said. I didn't respond. Not yet. They needed to feel the shift. Let me shout out Chloe for a sec. She's not just my assistant. She's a friend who's seen me drop everything for my family's emergencies over the years. When I told her about the party, she didn't just sympathize. She got to work. She called her lawyer friend, who confirmed I could cancel anything without a formal agreement. The $18,000 party deposit? Gone, but I redirected it as an anonymous donation to Seattle Children's Hospital. The cruise, Disney, the loan, all cancelable since they were in my name. Chloe helped me build a spreadsheet of every transaction I'd ever made for them, plus the opportunity cost, $80,000 in lost investment returns. Seeing it all laid out, it was like waking up from a bad dream. "You're done being their bank," Chloe said. And she was right. The cancellations were just the start. In part 4, I'll take you through the epic showdown when my family showed up at my door, guns blazing, trying to guilt me back into line. Spoiler, it didn't go their way. If you've ever faced a family confrontation over boundaries, you'll want to hear this. Drop a comment. Have you ever had to stand your ground like this? Hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for part 4. Let's keep pushing forward together. Yo, what's good, everyone? Mackenzie here with part 4 of my journey to stop being my family's personal ATM. If you've been following along, you know I hit my limit after my parents had me kicked out of their $18,000 anniversary party that I funded. In part 3, I dropped the bomb, cancelling $62,000 in financial commitments, from a Disney trip to an Alaska cruise to my brother's latest business loan. I knew the fallout was coming, and oh boy, did it hit like a freight train. Today, I'm taking you inside the showdown when my entire family stormed my apartment, ready to guilt-trip me back into line. Spoiler, I wasn't budging. If you've ever had to face down entitled family members, this one's for you. Drop a comment if you've been there, and let's dive in. After cancelling all those financial ties, I felt like I'd just run a marathon, exhausted but powerful. I'd set my phone to auto-reply, "Financial services permanently discontinued." Savage, but necessary. That evening, my best friend Jordan came over with pizza and wine, ready to ride out the inevitable chaos. By 6 p.m., my phone was a war zone. 36 missed calls, texts from my sister Heather screaming about the cancelled Disney trip, my brother Eric freaking out over his frozen business account, and my dad's voicemail demanding I fix this now. I didn't respond. For the first time, I let them stew. Jordan raised her glass. "To your freedom." I clinked back, feeling the weight lifting. But I knew the real test was coming. The next morning at 7 a.m., I'm jolted awake by pounding on my apartment door. Through the peephole, I see my parents, Heather and Eric, all looking like they're ready to start World War III. My dad's face is red, my mom's got that fake tear vibe, Heather's glaring, and Eric's pacing like a caged animal. I take a deep breath, slip on a robe, and open the door. My dad pushes past me without a hello. "What is the meaning of this?" he barks. The others file in, forming a semicircle of rage in my living room. Heather's first. "You cancelled our Disney trip? Jack and Emma are devastated," my mom chimes in. "The cruise line called us. Our anniversary trip's gone. We're humiliated." Eric's next. "You froze my account. I've got suppliers waiting." My dad cuts through. "Fix this now, Mackenzie. Whatever game you're playing ends today." This wasn't my first rodeo with their guilt trips. Let me take you back to when I was 28, and Eric needed $12,000 to save his car from repossession. I'd just landed a big client and was saving for a down payment on my condo. When I hesitated, my mom called, voice quivering. "How can you let your brother lose his car? He's family," I caved. Wired the money and delayed my own dreams. That's how it always went. Guilt, pressure, repeat. But this time, standing in my living room, I saw it for what it was, manipulation. I crossed my arms and said one word. No. The room went silent, like I'd dropped a grenade. They didn't expect that. My mom's jaw dropped. Heather snapped, "You're having a breakdown." Eric threatened, "I'll sue you. That money was mine." My dad stepped close, using his height like he did when I was a kid. "You'll fix this or you're out of this family." I laughed. A real, honest laugh that stopped them cold. Out of the family? When was I ever in it? When you needed mortgage payments? When Eric needed another failed startup? When Heather wanted a Vegas party? I grabbed the spreadsheet Chloe and I had made, showing $327,845.38 in payments over 10 years. "Here's every penny I've given you," I said, handing it to my dad. "Every loan, every gift, never repaid, plus $80,000 in lost investment returns. I'm done." They tried to argue, but I wasn't having it. "You called me a beggar," I said to my dad, my voice steady. He flinched. "You had me escorted out of a party I paid for." My mom tried to spin it. "You're taking it out of context." So I played the recording I'd made in my car that night, tearfully recounting every detail. My dad's voice clear as day. "Get this beggar out of here." Heather looked away. Eric stared at his shoes. My mom doubled down. "Your father was upset." I shook my head. "I've been taking things out of context my whole life, thinking your demands were love. That stops now." For the first time, they had no comeback. That confrontation was a turning point, but it wasn't the end. In part 5, I'll share how my family kept trying to pull me back in, and how I started building a new life with boundaries that stuck. If you've ever had to stand up to family drama, you'll want to hear this. Drop a comment. How do you handle guilt trips from family? Hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for part 5. Let's keep this journey going together. What's up, everyone? Mackenzie here, back with part 5 of my journey to stop being my family's personal ATM. Last time, I shared the wild showdown when my parents, sister, and brother stormed my apartment, demanding I undo the $62,000 in cancelled financial commitments, Disney trips, cruises, you name it. I stood my ground, armed with a spreadsheet showing the $327,000 I'd given them over a decade. That confrontation was a game changer, but my family wasn't done trying to reel me back in. Today, I'm diving into the aftermath, their relentless attempts to guilt me, and how I started building a life with boundaries that actually stuck. If you've ever had to hold the line after my family left my apartment, I thought I'd feel crushed. Instead, I felt free. Like I'd finally said the no I'd been holding in for years. But they weren't going down without a fight. Over the next week, my phone was a battlefield. My mom left voicemails sobbing about medical emergencies that magically disappeared when I didn't call back. My dad sent emails demanding I repay them for raising me, like I owed them for basic parenting. Heather texted photos of her kids, captioned, "They miss their aunt. How could you do this to them?" Eric claimed his business was ruined because I froze his $15,000 loan. It was a full-on guilt trip assault, and in the past it would have worked. But this time, I saw through it. Their desperation wasn't about love. It was about losing their cash machine. Let me tell you about one of those voicemails. My mom called 3 days after the confrontation, voice trembling. "Mackenzie, your father's in the hospital. We can't afford the bills. Please, we need you." My heart raced. I almost called back. But something felt off. I texted my cousin Rebecca, who's close to my parents, to check. She replied, "He's fine. He had a routine checkup yesterday." Classic manipulation. This wasn't new. 2 years ago, Mom pulled the same stunt when Eric needed $5,000 for car repairs. I paid, only to find out it was for a new gaming setup. That memory kept me strong. I didn't respond to the voicemail. Instead, I forwarded it to my therapist, Dr. Melissa Chin, who I just started seeing. She called it what it was, emotional blackmail. Speaking of therapy, Dr. Chin was a lifeline. In our first session, I laid out everything, the party, the $327,000, the confrontation. She didn't flinch. "Your family's built a system where you're the provider," she said. "Breaking that role means they'll push back hard. Your job is to hold the boundary, not to fix their feelings." She helped me set rules. No financial discussions, no engaging with guilt trips, and limit contact to public places if I chose to talk. It sounds simple, but it was like learning a new language. For years, I'd jump at every emergency. Now, I was learning to pause, breathe, and say, that's not my responsibility. It felt weird, but it also felt right. Here's a moment that felt like a victory. A week after the showdown, Heather called, all sweet and sisterly. Mac, the kids really want to see you. Can we come over? Oh, and maybe you could help with their school fees. It's been tough. In the past, I'd have said yes to keep the peace. Instead, I said I'd love to see Jack and Emma. They can come over any time, but I'm not discussing money. Silence. Then she hung up. No visit happened, but I didn't cave. For the first time, I felt the power of my own boundary. Dr. Chin was right. Saying no was like a muscle. The more I used it, the stronger it got. With the financial drain gone, I started noticing something wild. I had time, energy, and money to actually live my life. I'd been so busy funding my family's dreams that I'd forgotten my own. I signed up for a pottery class, something I'd always wanted to try, but never had the bandwidth for. My first vase was lopsided, but I laughed harder than I had in years. I also started saying yes to friends I'd neglected. Jordan dragged me to a comedy show, and I realized I hadn't laughed like that since college. My work flourished too. I landed a feature in a Seattle finance magazine as a top wealth advisor. Without my family's constant demands, I was free to grow. The pushback didn't stop, but neither did I. In part 6, I'll share how I navigated my first holiday season with these new boundaries, and the surprising ally who showed up when I least expected it. If you've ever had to redefine family on your own terms, you'll want to hear this. Drop a comment. How do you handle family guilt trips? Hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for part 6. Let's keep breaking free together. Hey, what's good, everyone? Mackenzie here with part 6 of my journey to stop being my family's personal ATM. In part 5, I shared how my family came at me hard after I cancelled $62,000 in financial commitments, throwing every guilt trip in the book. Fake emergencies, sob stories, you name it. But with therapy and some serious boundary setting, I held my ground and started rediscovering my own life. Today, I'm diving into how I navigated my first holiday season without funding my family's demands and the unexpected ally who showed up when I needed it most. If you've ever had to redefine what family means, this one's for you. Drop a comment if you've been there, and let's jump in. Thanksgiving was always a big deal in my family. Fancy dinners, expensive wine, and guess who was expected to foot the bill? Me. Last year, I dropped $4,000 on a catered spread for 20 people, only to be seated at the kids' table while my parents toasted Heather and Derek. This year, I decided it was going to be different. No more bankrolling their picture-perfect holidays. But the thought of my first Thanksgiving without them was daunting. Would I be alone? Would the guilt creep back in? My therapist, Dr. Chin, had me prepare. Holidays are a trigger, she said. Plan something that feels like you. So, I decided to host my first Friendsgiving. No family, no expectations, just people who actually valued me. I invited my crew, Jordan, my best friend, Chloe, my assistant, my new pals from a support group for family financial abuse, Alana, Desiree, and Thomas, and a few colleagues. Then, out of the blue, my cousin Rebecca texted, "Heard you're doing Friendsgiving. Can my husband and I come?" I was floored. Rebecca had reached out after the anniversary party, apologizing for not speaking up when my parents humiliated me. We'd been texting cautiously since, but this felt big. I also invited my Aunt Catherine, my mom's sister, who'd recently called out my parents' behavior. That night, 16 of us packed my Seattle apartment. We laughed, shared stories, and ate a potluck spread. No $4,000 catering needed. Rebecca brought a pumpkin pie. Catherine brought wine and family gossip I'd never heard. For the first time, I felt like I belonged somewhere real. As the night wound down, Catherine pulled me aside. "I've got something for you," she said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a letter from my grandmother, Eleanor, who'd passed 7 years ago. "Your mother told me to wait until you were stable," Catherine said, rolling her eyes. The letter was a gut punch. "My dearest Mackenzie," it read, "I see your strength, even if your parents don't. I'm leaving you a trust they don't know about. Use it for your life, not theirs. I know you'll stand up to them one day. Attached was a bank statement, $175,000, accruing interest since her death. I teared up. Grandma Eleanor had seen me when no one else did. Catherine hugged me. She'd be so proud of you. Of course, my family didn't let Thanksgiving slide. My mom sent a text. You're skipping family Thanksgiving. We always count on you. Eric emailed. The kids are asking why you hate us. Heather posted a passive-aggressive Instagram story about family who abandon you. I didn't take the bait. Dr. Chin's advice echoed in my head. Their emotions aren't your responsibility. I sent a group text. I'm spending the holiday with friends. Wishing you all well. Short, sweet, done. The silence that followed was louder than their usual demands, but it felt like victory. I was rewriting what holidays could mean. No more buying my way into a family that didn't want me. That Friendsgiving was a turning point. I started seeing what family could be. Chosen, reciprocal, real. My support group friends became my lifeline. Alana shared her story of cutting off her parents. Thomas celebrated selling his novel. And Desiree invited us to her art show. At work, I was killing it, onboarding 3 new clients and planning to expand my firm. I even used a chunk of Grandma's trust to start a small foundation for young people estranged from their families, helping them with education grants. It felt like honoring her faith in me. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. The holidays weren't the end of the drama. In part 7, I'll share how my parents made one last attempt to pull me back in, and how I faced them with boundaries stronger than ever. If you've ever had to choose yourself over family expectations, you'll want to hear this. Drop a comment. How do you handle holiday drama with family? Hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for part 7. Let's keep this journey going together. Hey, what's good, everyone? Mackenzie here with part 7 of my journey to stop being my family's personal ATM. In part 6, I shared how I redefined the holidays with my first Friendsgiving, surrounded by people who actually valued me, and got a life-changing surprise from my Aunt Catherine, a $175,000 trust from my grandma, who always believed in me. But my family? They weren't done trying to pull me back into their orbit. Today, I'm diving into their final big push to guilt me into opening my wallet again, and how I faced them with boundaries that were rock solid. If you've ever had to stand firm against family pressure, this one's for you. Drop a comment if you've been there, and let's get into it. A few weeks after my Friendsgiving triumph, as Christmas lights started popping up around Seattle, I got a text from my dad. Unlike his usual angry demands, this one was soft. Your mother and I are having coffee at Westlake Center tomorrow at 2. If you're free, we'd like to talk. My stomach twisted. Part of me was curious. Could they actually want to fix things? But another part screamed, trap! I called my therapist doctor, Chin, to game plan. What boundaries would make this meeting feel safe? She asked. I laid it out. Public place, 30 minutes max, no money talk. She nodded. You can walk away any time they cross a line. I agreed to meet them, but I was ready to shut it down if they tried their old tricks. Westlake Center was buzzing with holiday shoppers, the perfect neutral ground. I spotted my parents at a corner table, looking older than I remembered. My dad's usual commanding posture was slouched. My mom's designer outfits were gone, replaced by a plain sweater. For a second, I felt that old tug of guilt, but I breathed through it. Thanks for coming, my dad said, his voice unusually quiet. The first 10 minutes were awkward small talk. Weather, holiday plans, nothing real. Then my mom leaned in, eyes misty. We miss you, Mackenzie. My heart skipped, but I stayed sharp. Do you miss me, or what I paid for? I asked. Her hand pulled back like I'd slapped it. My dad cleared his throat. We've had to make adjustments. It's been hard. This wasn't their first we're struggling play. Let me take you back to 5 years ago, when my parents first asked for help with their mortgage. Just this month, my mom said, voice trembling. I sent $3,000, thinking it was a one-time thing, But 1 month became 6, then a year, until I was covering their entire $2,500 monthly payment. When I suggested they downsize, my dad snapped, "This is our home. Don't you care about us?" I kept paying, desperate for their approval. Now, sitting across from them at Westlake, I saw the same script. "I'm sorry it's been hard," I said neutrally. "But my boundaries haven't changed. I'm not discussing money." My mom's tone sharpened. "Your sister's kids ask about you. They're heartbroken about Christmas. Classic move, using the kids." I leaned forward. "Jack and Emma are welcome at my place anytime without Heather, but I'm done funding trips or gifts." My dad sighed, like I was the unreasonable one. "Think about what family means, Mackenzie," I smiled, calm as ever. "I have every day for 6 months. Family doesn't mean me paying for your lifestyle." They exchanged that look, the one that used to make me feel like an outsider in my own family. But this time, it didn't hurt. I checked my watch. "Time's up. I wish you well." I stood, left a $5 bill for my coffee, and walked out feeling lighter than ever. That meeting was a test, and I passed. In the past, their "we miss you" would have had me writing checks by sundown. But therapy had rewired me. Dr. Chin called it reparenting myself, learning to give myself the love I'd chased from them. I celebrated that night with Jordan at a rooftop bar, toasting to boundaries. "You're a badass," she said, grinning. And you know what? I felt like one. My family's power over me, emotional, financial, was gone. I wasn't just saying no to their demands, I was saying yes to my own worth. Walking away from that coffee shop was a high, but the journey wasn't over. In part 8, I'll share how my family's world started crumbling without my financial support, and the unexpected ways I started building a new family of my own. If you've ever had to walk away from toxic family dynamics, you'll want to hear this. Drop a comment. How do you stay strong when family tries to guilt you? Hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for part 8. Let's keep this journey going together. What's good, everyone? Mackenzie here with part 8 of my journey to stop being my family's personal ATM. Last time, I shared how I faced my parents at a tense coffee shop meeting, holding my boundaries like a shield when they tried to guilt me back into funding their lives. Walking away from that table felt like breaking free from a decade-long cage. Today, I'm diving into what happened next, how my family's world started unraveling without my financial support, and how I began building a new family, chosen, not forced. If you've ever had to create your own sense of belonging after cutting off toxic ties, this one's for you. Drop a comment if you've been there, and let's get into it. Without my money propping them up, my family's carefully curated lifestyle started to crack. My cousin Rebecca, who'd become my unexpected ally, kept me in the loop. My parents had to downsize from their sprawling suburban house to a modest condo. Turns out they couldn't afford the mortgage without me. Eric's latest business venture, some crypto scheme, tanked when I froze the $15,000 account, leaving him scrambling to pay suppliers. Heather and her husband scrapped their planned kitchen renovation, and I heard they were fighting about money constantly. Part of me felt a twinge of guilt. Old habits die hard, but mostly I felt relief. Their consequences weren't my burden anymore. Dr. Chin, my therapist, put it perfectly. You're not responsible for their choices, just your own. Let me paint a picture of Eric's mess. 2 years ago, he came to me with stars in his eyes about a revolutionary crypto app. He needed $20,000 for development costs. I gave it to him, hoping it'd be the one idea he'd actually stick with. Instead, he blew it on flashy marketing and a new laptop, then ghosted the project when it got tough. When I froze his latest $15,000, he sent me a furious voicemail. "You've ruined my life, Mac! I'm done!" Rebecca later told me he'd borrowed from shady lenders to keep it afloat, and now he was dodging calls from them. It was a harsh lesson, but it wasn't mine to fix. For once, I let him face the mess he made. While my family's drama unfolded, I was busy creating something new, a family that didn't see me as a wallet. My Friendsgiving crew became my anchor. Alana, Desiree, and Thomas from my support group were like siblings I never had. We started a monthly dinner club, swapping stories of our own boundary battles over tacos and wine. Jordan, my ride or die, got engaged and asked me to be her maid of honor. No strings attached, just love. Even at work, my team felt like family. Chloe threw a surprise lunch when I got featured in that finance magazine, complete with a goofy Boss of the Year trophy. These were people who showed up for me, not my bank account, and it felt like coming home. Hey, what's up, everyone? Mackenzie here with part 9 of my journey to stop being my family's personal ATM. In part 8, I shared how my family's world started crumbling without my financial support. My parents downsized, my brother's crypto scheme tanked, and my sister's dream renovation got scrapped. Meanwhile, I was building a chosen family with friends and allies who valued me for me, not my wallet, and I kicked off a foundation with my grandma's trust to help others break free. Today, I'm diving into how I faced the ripple effects of my boundaries, including some unexpected support from extended family, and how I started redefining success on my own terms. If you've ever had to rebuild after cutting off toxic ties, this one's for you. Drop a comment if you relate, and let's jump in. 6 months after I cut the financial cord, the fallout was still shaking things up. My cousin Rebecca kept me posted on the family drama. My parents were spinning a new narrative, telling relatives I'd abandoned them, painting me as the cold, selfish daughter. It stung, but it wasn't new. They'd always controlled the story about me. What surprised me was the cracks in their facade. My Aunt Catherine, who'd given me Grandma's letter in trust, stopped speaking to my mom after calling her out for the anniversary party fiasco. Even my Uncle Thomas, usually neutral, told Rebecca he thought my parents had gone too far. For the first time, people in the family were questioning their version of events. It felt like a small victory, but I wasn't holding my breath for apologies. Rebecca became my unexpected hero. A few weeks after Friendsgiving, she invited me to coffee and spilled some tea. "Your mom tried to get me to guilt trip you," she admitted. She wanted me to call and say how hurt they were. But Rebecca refused. She'd seen how they treated me at the party, having security escort me out like I was a stranger. And it flipped a switch for her. I told her it was wrong, she said, and she hasn't spoken to me since. That took guts. Rebecca was risking her own family ties to stand up for what was right. We started meeting regularly, swapping stories about growing up in the Morgan family's shadow. Her support was a lifeline, proof I wasn't as alone as I thought. With my family's demands out of the picture, I had space to ask myself, what do I want? For years, success meant proving myself to them. Bigger checks, bigger sacrifices. Now I was rewriting the script. At work, my financial advisory firm was booming. I hired a third advisor to handle the client load and started mentoring young women in finance, something I'd always wanted to do. Outside work, I leaned into passions I'd ignored. I took a weekend trip to Portland with Jordan, just because we could. I even tried rock climbing, terrifying but exhilarating. Each step felt like reclaiming a piece of myself I'd given away to my family's expectations. My foundation was another bright spot. Remember Mia, the 19-year-old who got a grant to start college? She sent me an email that made my day. "I aced my first semester," she wrote. "I'm on track to transfer to a nursing program. Thank you for believing in me." Reading that, I felt my grandma's presence. She'd left me that $175,000 trust to build a life, not just for me, but for others. I used another chunk of it to fund 3 more grants, including one for a guy named Jamal, who'd been cut off by his family for pursuing art school. Helping them felt like healing my own wounds, one grant at a time. The holidays rolled into Christmas, and my family's silence was deafening. No invites, no calls, just a single card from my mom with a generic happy holidays and no mention of the drama. Rebecca told me they'd cancelled their big Christmas party, probably because I wasn't bankrolling it. It was bittersweet. I missed the idea of family, but not the reality of their entitlement. Dr. Chin helped me process it. "You're grieving the family you wished you had," she said. "That's normal. Keep building the one you're choosing." My Christmas was spent with my support group crew, decorating a tiny tree in my apartment and laughing over bad holiday movies. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. My boundaries were holding, but the journey wasn't over. In part 10, I'll share how I faced a final test from my family and how I started dreaming bigger than ever with plans that would have made my grandma proud. If you've ever had to grieve the family you wanted while building a new one, you'll want to hear this. Drop a comment. How do you handle the void after cutting off toxic family? Hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for part 10. Let's keep this journey going together. What's good, everyone? Mackenzie here with part 10 of my journey to stop being my family's personal ATM. Last time, I shared how my family's world kept unraveling without my financial support, while I was building a chosen family with friends and allies like my cousin Rebecca. My foundation, funded by my grandma's $175,000 trust, was helping young people like Mia chase their dreams. Today, I'm diving into a final test for my family that pushed my boundaries to the limit, and how I started dreaming bigger than ever with plans that would have made my grandma beam. If you've ever had to stand firm while building a new future, this one's for you. Drop a comment if you relate, and let's get into it. A few months into the new year, as Seattle's cherry blossoms started blooming, I got an email from my sister Heather. Subject line: "We need to talk." My guard went up, but I read it. "Mom's sick," she wrote. "She needs surgery, and we can't cover it. You're the only one who can help." My heart sank. Surgery sounds serious, right? But I'd been burned before with their fake emergencies. I called Rebecca to verify. "It's true," she said. "Aunt Elizabeth needs a procedure, but it's not life-threatening and they have insurance." Classic. They were using Mom's health to pull me back in. I replied to Heather, "I'm sorry to hear about Mom. Let me know how the surgery goes, but I'm not providing financial help." Her response? A string of texts calling me heartless. I didn't budge. This wasn't their first health-related guilt trip. 3 years ago, my dad claimed he needed $8,000 for medical tests. I sent the money, only to find out through Rebecca that he'd used it to lease a new SUV. When I confronted him, he shrugged it off. We needed a reliable car for doctor visits. That betrayal stuck with me. This time, with Mom's surgery, I offered to help in other ways, bringing meals, coordinating with doctors, but I held firm on money. Heather never followed up on my offer, which told me everything. They didn't want my support. They wanted my checkbook. Dr. Chin's words rang in my head. "You're not their bank. You're their daughter, and they've lost sight of that." With my family's demands fading, I had energy to dream bigger than ever. My financial advisory firm was thriving. I was mentoring 2 new advisors and planning a second office in Portland. But it wasn't just about work. I started envisioning a life that wasn't defined by my family's expectations. I booked a solo trip to Iceland, something I'd always wanted to do, but never had the time or money for, thanks to them. I also poured more into my foundation. We awarded 5 new grants, including one to a young woman named Sarah, who'd escaped an abusive family and was studying engineering. Her thank you letter said, "You're proof I can build a life on my own terms." That hit deep. Grandma Eleanor would have loved her. Let me tell you about that Iceland trip. Picture me, bundled up in a parka, standing under the northern lights, feeling like I was on another planet. I'd always put off travel because I was too busy bailing out my family. But there, hiking glaciers and soaking in hot springs, I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. I met a group of travelers at my hostel, and we ended up sharing stories over coffee in Reykjavik. When I told them about my journey, one woman said, "You're an inspiration." I'm scared to set boundaries with my parents, but you make it seem possible. That moment felt like my foundation's mission coming to life, helping others find their strength, one story at a time. Back home, my chosen family kept growing. Rebecca and I were closer than ever, planning a summer barbecue with Aunt Catherine and a few cousins who'd started reaching out. My support group, Alana, Desiree, and Thomas, became my weekly touchstone, sharing laughs and tears over Zoom when we couldn't meet in person. Jordan's wedding planning was in full swing, and being her maid of honor felt like a privilege, not a transaction. Even at work, my team threw a surprise party for my 35th birthday, complete with a cake that said, "To boundaries." I was surrounded by people who saw me, not my wallet, and it was changing how I saw myself. My family's final test wasn't the end of the story. In part 11, I'll share how I faced the long-term impact of cutting them off and how I started building a legacy that honored my grandma's faith in me. If you've ever had to dream big after breaking free from toxic ties, you'll want to hear this. Drop a comment. How do you stay focused on your own goals when family drama tries to pull you back? Hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for part 11. Let's keep this journey going together. What's good, everyone? Mackenzie here with part 11 of my journey to stop being my family's personal ATM. In part 10, I shared how I faced a final test from my family, a so-called emergency about my mom's surgery that turned out to be another money grab. I held my boundaries and started dreaming bigger, from a life-changing trip to Iceland to expanding my foundation for estranged young people. Today, I'm diving into the long-term impact of cutting off my family's financial support and how I began building a legacy that would make my grandma proud. If you've ever had to redefine your future after breaking free from toxic family ties, this one's for you. Drop a comment if you relate, and let's get into it. A year after I stopped funding my family, the ripple effects were undeniable. My cousin Rebecca kept me updated. My parents were still in their downsized condo, struggling to maintain their old lifestyle without my cash. My brother Eric was working a regular job for the first time in years, after his crypto scheme crashed and burned. My sister Heather and her husband were reportedly in marriage counselling, their financial stress bubbling over. I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt to hear about their struggles, but Dr. Chin, my therapist, helped me see it clearly. Their choices led them here, not yours. I wasn't responsible for fixing their lives, and letting go of that guilt felt like shedding a second skin. Here's a wild moment from the fallout. Rebecca told me my parents had officially written me out of their will. They made a big show of it at a family gathering, declaring I'd betrayed them. The kicker: their estate was mostly debt. Without my money, there wasn't much to inherit anyway. It reminded me of a time when I was 25, and my mom hinted I'd get their house if I kept helping out. I fell for it, covering their mortgage for years. Now, hearing they'd cut me out, I just laughed. It was freeing to realize their threats had no power anymore. My worth wasn't tied to their approval or their assets. It was in the life I was building. With my family's demands gone, I poured my energy into my foundation. We'd now funded 10 grants for young people like Mia and Jamal, helping them chase degrees in nursing, engineering, and art. Each thank you letter felt like a nod from my grandma Eleanor, whose $175,000 trust had sparked this mission. I decided to take it further. I partnered with a local nonprofit to offer mentorship programs, connecting grant recipients with professionals in their fields. At our first mentorship event, I met Mia in person. She hugged me and said, "You didn't just give me money, you gave me hope." That moment was worth more than any family approval I'd ever chased. My professional life was soaring too. I opened that second office in Portland, hiring a team of advisors who shared my passion for empowering clients, not just managing their money. At the ribbon cutting, my team surprised me with a plaque, Mackenzie Morgan, Trailblazer. I got choked up. Not because of the title, but because I was finally living for myself. I also started a financial literacy workshop for young adults, teaching them to set boundaries with money. One participant, a 22-year-old named Liam, told me he'd stopped lending cash to his deadbeat brother after my workshop. "You made me see I'm not a bad person for saying no," he said. Helping others find their strength was becoming my legacy. My chosen family kept growing. Rebecca and I were planning a summer trip to the San Juan Islands with Aunt Catherine and her kids. My support group, Alana, Desiree, and Thomas, was my safe haven, where we celebrated wins like Thomas's book deal and mourned setbacks like Alana's job loss. Jordan's wedding was coming up, and being her maid of honor felt like a full-circle moment. I was also dating someone new, a kind, grounded guy who didn't care about my bank account. For the first time, I was surrounded by people who loved me for me, not what I could provide. It was the family I'd always wanted, built on mutual respect, not transactions. The journey's not over yet. In part 12, I'll wrap up with how I've made peace with my past and where I'm headed next. Plus, a final surprise for my family that tested everything I'd built. If you've ever had to find closure after toxic family drama, you'll want to hear this. Drop a comment. How do you define your legacy after breaking free? Hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for part 12. Let's finish this journey together. What's good, everyone? Mackenzie here with the final chapter, part 12, of my journey to stop being my family's personal ATM. In part 11, I shared how I faced the long-term fallout of cutting off my family's financial support, from their disinheritance drama to their crumbling lifestyle, while I built a legacy through my foundation and a chosen family who truly valued me. Today, I'm wrapping it up with how I found peace with my past, faced one last surprise from my family, and set my sights on a future that's all mine. If you've ever had to find closure after toxic family ties, this one's for you. Drop a comment if this series hit home, and let's dive in. A year and a half after that humiliating night at my parents' anniversary party, I was in a different place, literally and figuratively. Therapy with Dr. Chin helped me grieve the family I'd wanted but never had. Closure doesn't always mean reconciliation, she said. Sometimes it's accepting what was and choosing what will be. I stopped waiting for apologies that had never come. Instead, I focused on the life I was building. My foundation had now funded 15 grants, helping kids like Mia and Sarah chase their dreams. My firm's Portland office was thriving, and I was mentoring a new generation of advisors. I'd traded the pain of rejection for the joy of purpose, and it felt like freedom. Just when I thought my family was out of moves, I got a letter. Not an email, an actual handwritten letter from my mom. It arrived in early spring, tucked in my mailbox like a time capsule. Mackenzie, it read, "We've made mistakes. We'd like to see you. No expectations. Just coffee." My first instinct was suspicion. Was this another ploy? I called Rebecca, who'd heard through the grapevine that my parents were struggling, not just financially, but emotionally. "They're starting to see what they've lost," she said. I agreed to meet. Same rules as before. Public place, 30 minutes, no money talk. At the cafe, they looked worn, almost fragile. They didn't ask for anything, just talked about their new condo, their regrets. I listened, nodded, but kept my guard up. "I'm open to talking," I said, "but nothing changes unless respect does." They didn't push, and I left feeling neutral. Not healed, but not hurt either. That was closure. One of my proudest moments came last month at my foundation's first annual gala. We raised $50,000 for more grants, and Mia, now a nursing student, spoke about how our support changed her life. "Mackenzie showed me family isn't just blood, it's who lifts you up," she said. I teared up thinking of my grandma Eleanor, whose trust started this. I'd used the remaining funds to endow the foundation, ensuring it'd keep helping kids for years. At the gala, I met a donor who'd been estranged from her family too. "Your story inspired me to set boundaries," she said. That's when I knew. My pain wasn't just mine anymore. It was a beacon for others. Now, at 35, I'm dreaming bigger than ever. I'm planning a trip to New Zealand, just because I can. My firm's eyeing a third office in Denver, and I'm writing a book about financial boundaries, blending my story with practical advice. My chosen family, Rebecca, Aunt Catherine, Jordan, my support group, is my rock. I'm even thinking about adopting a dog, something I never had time for when I was my family's ATM. The best part? I'm living for me, not their approval. My worth isn't tied to what I give. It's in who I am and who I'm becoming. This journey wasn't easy. Cutting off $327,000 in financial support, facing my family's wrath, and rebuilding from scratch took guts I didn't know I had. But every step, every no, every boundary, every new connection was worth it. If you're stuck being someone's ATM, know this. You deserve to be seen for you, not your wallet. Start small, say no once, set one boundary, find one person who gets it. You're stronger than you think, and there's a whole world waiting for you to claim it. That's my story, but I want to hear yours. Have you ever had to break free from family expectations? What did it teach you about your worth? Drop it in the comments. I read everyone. If this series resonated, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Here's to choosing ourselves every single day.